During my time in New York, I met mothers missing their sons, wives missing their husbands, guys missing their friends. In a city missing its heart. The holes left by the two fallen towers are enormous, but they're nothing compared to the holes left in the hearts of those still grieving.
The family will never, ever be the same. Does 9/11 mean anything to them? Does it mean anything to me? Absolutely not. Nothing. If I had to think about it, it's the day my son was murdered.
Perhaps of everyone I met, retired firefighter Lee Ielpi's story personified the strength needed to rebuild a life and a city.
When something horrible happens, well, the easiest thing to do is give up. Come on, that doesn't make sense, you know. The loss is horrible. Let's find a way to make something positive out of a loss.
Lee's son, Jonathan, was also a firefighter. September 11 would be the last time Lee would hear from him.
He called to say, turn the television on, and I saw what everybody else saw. It was the North Tower was struck. And he said, Dad, we're going to the World Trade Center. I said, okay, buddy, be careful. He said, okay. And that was the last phone call.
As the hours passed, Lee raced down to Ground Zero to help.
That day, my mission was simple, to come to the city and try to help, even though I was retired from the fire department. And then it turned into a different mission, and that was to find my son.
Days became weeks, and still Lee kept digging. He helped carry out many bodies, many sons, but none of them Jonathan. Finally, 3 months later, whilst taking a rare rest from his desperate search, he got the news he'd been waiting for.
The phone rang. It was about 11:30, and it was a friend, Paul Farrell, chief in charge of the site for the night, and he said, I found your son.
Lee went straight down to the rubble to see him.
Jonathan was in a basket with a flag over it. So and Paul put his hands on my shoulder and he said, he's all there. I still had to feel him from his toes up to his head, and some of the men from Squad 288 who carried him out. And I didn't want them to feel bad. So I looked over and I smiled at them, and I gave them a thumbs up. Because it's difficult for them, and it was difficult for us, of course, right? But you gotta think about them. Think about the guys that found Jonathan.
What do you miss most about him?
Jonathan. Jonathan.
I'm coming home, I'm coming home. Tell the world I'm coming home. Let the rain.
Dad, Mom, Jewel, and I miss you.
Yesterday, the names of the fallen were read and remembered at a memorial site that remains a work in progress. By 2013, the new World Trade Center tower will stand at 104 stories high, the tallest office building in the world. And while much of New York and the people I met are still struggling to rebuild their lives 10 years on, Lee Ielpi channels his pain and sadness into something positive by taking daily tours at this tribute centre that he helped found.
I saw your son's outfit and his helmet. How do you walk past that every day?
I try not to.
Lee believes in the need to teach people, particularly children, about the lessons of 9/11. How to continue living with love when it may seem easier to succumb to anger and hate.
These terrorists, did they succeed? Oh, hell no, they did not. They showed the world how strong we are. We, society, all over. The support that came out, the help that we got, the foundations that started, the scholarships that started. If anything, they lost.
And as Lee told me, he will always have his son Jonathan watching over him, urging him to keep going.
Jonathan is in better hands now. But I would rather have him in my hands.